Ready to roll Friday afternoon here at Gulfstream Park West, and pretty picture outside. The sun is shining. We've got blue skies for as far as the eye can see, and just a nice day here in Miami Gardens as we get set again for a 9-race program and moving into another weekend as our fall season continues. Boys in blue, Jason Blewett, Ron Nicoletti, glad to have you with us. And again, Ronnie, I'm happy things have cleared up as far as Mother Nature is concerned, and we hope, assuming the weather stays the way it is currently outside, maybe we're back on the turf for the entire weekend.
Well, I was talking to my lawn and said, please, no more rain. I'm good until May. So we're hoping that's how it works out. But a beautiful day today. Seems the temperature and the humidity's down a little bit.
Yeah, we're right on the verge of hitting like the sweet spot where we get 6 or 7 months of just pristine weather down here, and obviously makes Florida so great during late fall through early spring. Now, as we take care of some business here at the top of the broadcast, we do have a friendly reminder that the Stronach 5 offers that weekly $100,000 guaranteed pool. You've got, again, a very low VIG, just the 12% tax on that wager, and a sequence that includes not only a race from GPW, but 2 from Laurel and 2 out on the West Coast.
Yeah, and that one from Gulfstream Park, please remember when you handicapped, that one was taken off the turf this afternoon, so you got to refigure it a little bit, but $100,000 guaranteed always pays very nicely.
And I do think the favorite here in the 9th race at GPW is going to be pretty tough to beat. You might not have to go all that deep in the finale this afternoon, and of course that finale plays the back end of both the late pick 5 and the Rainbow 6 with the $75,000 guarantee, and that begins anew in race number 4. Now, the 4th and 5th races, in fact, are a big cross-section because they also play part in the early pick 5, and I have got an early pick 5, and I'll elaborate a little more on the first race field in a second, but I think I touched upon using 3 horses in this off the turf maiden 40 for the fillies. I've got 3 different categories that I think are pretty relevant, and I like that. Again, I think I'm pretty thorough there using the 2, 7, and 12. Another 3-horse spread for me in the second. That's probably a race, quite simply, that rests on the 7 Compromiso as that horse drops down to a 16K maiden claiming for Antonio. You see the single in the third. That is the 5 Starship Nala, who is just a dirt horse, and she's run some big races on the dirt, and that compact field of 5 is playing her game today, and I like her, just thinking she's in the right place at the right time. 3 logicals for me in the 4th, and a 2-horse spread closing this thing down with a Casalsa and number 6 Carson City Kid, who I'm hoping wires the field there in the 5th. Do we have a track that is kind of early speed? We'll see. We were sloppy and harrowed yesterday afternoon, or at least sloppy, and the track wasn't sealed. It is much drier than it was 24 hours ago, and looking and trying to suss out who might be the speed in the first race. Off the bat, I'm going to take the 7 Mastering Bella, who's down into the maiden claiming ranks, and this is just a realistic dip for this filly by Cairo Prince. I want her to show some speed, and I'm going to take her over your horse, who I think with the 2-ball Lightning, she's got the best last-out effort in the field. Does that effort translate back to the dirt this afternoon?
Well, she's going to stretch out to 7 furlongs this afternoon. Had some trouble at the start to finish third. And that was a good sprint across town to produce a pair of next-out winners from 5 starters. David Fawkes is the trainer. Miguel Vasquez had topped his daughter of Orb, who ran okay in the dirt. Did a couple of starts back in its 5-furlong debut. Mastering Bella couldn't reel in, what was that, Don't Float the Ice last time. It didn't come back and run that well yesterday, but that was off the turf. So I think that's the logical two. Now we went with a first-time starter in third, a Blue-Eyed Kitten. I'm thinking maybe a first-time starter with all these different changes in the first race might be the way to go.
Crystal Coast is the 12 for Carlos David. She's not going to be a big price here. Probably not going to be favored, but worth a look. We'll see how she does. She's got the big main track question to answer as a daughter of Animal Kingdom. I don't love that she's run exclusively on the turf in all 4 career starts with a pedigree that kind of goes both ways, but still respect the barn with Carlos David. In fact, Ronnie, having 3 potentially live horses in the first 3 races today, because we'll move on to the second. And although Compromiso is the colt to beat, he's just run okay to this point. And I think if somebody's able to step forward in this race, like the 6 Grab the Chance, we might be able to make a race of it. And Carlos is sending out this second-time starting colt, and there's just not a lot to see regarding his first race, other than, say, the first 3 or 4 seconds. And we're going to bring you that right now from September 10th or across town at Gulfstream Park. Park, and you can watch this colt who got bet in a 5 furlong off the turf race. He's the number 8, just sluggish out of the gate. Looked like me trying to get out of bed this morning, but he was just out of the race in a blink of an eye. And you break like that going 5 in a big field like that, there's a good chance, unless you're just flat out superior, you're not going to make much noise. And I'd like to think he's not only going to just run better, comes back with the blinkers for a very good second out barn. But I've got no issue with you taking the 7 Compromiso, who, again, if none of these more lightly raced horses step forward, he might just be the class of the field here for maiden 16.
Yeah, what I liked about the horse, he was second at this distance of 7 furlongs against $32,000 maidens a couple of starts back. He drops to this level today after stalking the pace and weak need to finish 4th against those 35 maidens. That was going that 2-turn a mile in the slop here. I'm going to show you stat on Antonio Sano. Just 50% drop in competition, 12 for 55, 22%. That's on the dirt. 51% in the money, 247. The reason I like this horse is just because it ran well at that tricky 7 furlong distance. That was my more key than the drop. I'm not positive how this horse might run on the drop, but I like the fact that this horse ran well at the distance.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for me anyway, putting him in for 16. He's already lost repeatedly for 40 and for 32 and for 35. No, and I'm with you. I mean, if this field struggles going 7, he's got plenty of foundation and is just the one they're going to have to get around. Do we see some improvement as well from the For the Method, who I thought was a candidate to show a bit more speed as he tries 7/8 for the second time in his career. Now, we're off the turf. Speaking of 7, that's the trip we're going to go here for this Friday featured third. Cast of 5, and you've basically got, I think, in one corner, the 5 Starship Nala, who I singled in the early pick 5 because she's a dirt horse. But the only other horse I could possibly come up with, although she's very inconsistent and is better on the turf, is the number 2 Fujara. Looks like a 2-horse race between them.
Well, Starship Nala has more wins on the dirt than the rest of the field combined. Second off the bench is a pretty good move for Steve Dwoskin. I think that, of course, looks like the logical one on the dirt. Fujihara, as you mentioned, had trouble starting 5th against those 62,500 optional claimers. That race moved from the lawn to 5 furlongs on the main track. Just the connections alone, I just think it's a good spot for this horse to run. I think those are the logical 2. Crown and Sugar, cutting back in distance, was in the Monroe last time on the turf. Darian Rodriguez, Leonel Reyes.
If you want the speed, maybe you give a look to her in a short field. But, boy, I don't know about the dirt with her going 7, you know?
Yeah, only her second start on the dirt, so we'll see how she runs in there.
Yeah, she's run some good races on the turf. Again, much like many of the horses competing today, she's got the big dirt question to potentially answer. We'll take a little breather here with the opening 3 down. We'll chase 75 large in the Rainbow 6 after this.
In the 2-path. Round off her inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Sun is always out here in Miami Gardens on a picture-perfect Friday afternoon for racing at Gulfstream Park West. We do have 9 races on the docket today, shifting into another weekend. And what are we, 2 weeks on the nose out from Breeders' Cup Friday at Keeneland, and just looking, Ronnie, at the DRF today, every Friday beginning, I guess, in the middle of September, they've got basically that weekly sort of a summation of each Breeders' Cup race in each division, and hard to believe, man. I mean, we're closing in on the second Breeders' Cup ever at Keeneland.
Yeah, and every time there's the Breeders' Cup, right around the corner is the championship meet. That's how my life usually runs. So I know the Breeders' Cup,
yep.
I know the championship meet is right around the corner.
Oh, everything. I mean, all seasons, I mean, especially especially living in New York, where maybe you have a little more of a diverse kind of four-season run. Not so much now in contemporary times, but it is funny that your entire life is based around basically the racetrack and where we're racing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Forget about Christmas and all that stuff. I got to know when the,
Yep.
Pegasus is going to run.
It's so true. I mean, it really is true. We'll get on to your Rainbow Six here with a fast main track forthcoming and a first post in about 45 minutes, give or take, or race time in about 45 minutes. And I'm curious to see, did you single anybody? I know you're not a huge fan of singling unless, and you're shaking your head no, unless you absolutely love a horse.
Right.
I was wondering if maybe the 14 Create Again in the 7th might be a single, or the 2 Our Uncle Eric in the last.
Yeah, I was pretty close to singling the 14. I could honestly say that. I had it, and then I just added the 4 in there. But I did start it off. I went 3 deep in here in race number 4, and I went with Trisomia, pure crazy dude, and 3 deep in there. A horse that I'm not that enamored with, but I wouldn't leave it off the ticket. The 5th race, I like Carson City's Kid and Lamplighter Jack. I think those are the logical 2. Oh, another race, race 6. I thought Sexy Dream was going to be a big favorite in there, but I had to use facts only from Catherine Davey, I think, with Paco in the saddle. Didn't want to get beat there. You mentioned race number 7. 14, Create Again, looks like the logical one, but I have some interest in Twofer is going to try and make it 2 in a row today. In race number 8, 3 deep in there with Legal Deal, Our Mercedes Boy, and Company Store. And in the last, I went with Shortlister. I actually like Shortlister a little bit more than Our Uncle Eric, just because Our Uncle Eric, just that huge drop in competition. And then I closed it out with Machiavello for Fasto Gutierrez. But 43-20 for me, and I could have singled the 14 in there. And that's what's great about this Rainbow Six situation. If you got a couple of singles in there, you could spread in those other races that might be a little shaky.
And it's a low risk, high reward investment. I mean, 20 cents get you in the door, and you can dream big this afternoon. Ronnie taking a swing at 43-20. Now, you've got 3 in this opening leg. You got a little breathing room on paper. And in looking at this cast of 3 lifetime 12-5 to 10-5 claimers, I see you're a fan of the 2 who I think is very dangerous in Trisomia. And I would imagine not only is this horse in good hands, and you've got a co-leading trainer in Rohan Crichton, I'm assuming you like the speed and recent form.
Yeah, going to turn back to 6.5 furlongs after gliding through those sloppy conditions to defeat those non-winners of 2 lifetime competition, going 7 here last time out. Rohan Crichton, he's co-leading trainer. I still believe he is now after yesterday. Miguel Vasquez named to run, so it's part connections. It's part I like the last race last time out. So I'll put this one on top of my ticket.
Now, he'll knock heads against the 4, who you have in second. You banged out a cold 2-4 with Pure Crazy Dude, who's back in distance, as is the rail horse, who I think is going to run pretty well in Uncaptured King. I think less is more might be a situation with him, and for the most part, he's kept better company, significantly better company than this race here, and I wouldn't sleep on him, even though his last race was a little lackluster in the slop. He might not like a wet track. I think he's dangerous, Uncaptured King. Now, speaking of slop, you've got 3 deep, my top selection here for Gilberto Zerpa, who, in hindsight, in a race like this, I'm happy he put that poor performance behind him 2 back. I think that was whatever, a clunker. He just didn't run as the favorite in late September, but he obviously shipped over here and had no issue. I like his last start in context to what he's knocking heads with here.
My concern was that performance 2 starts back, and he comes back, runs well. Was it slop aided last time out? So, he was the favorite going 5.5 furlongs. I mean, Gilberto Zerpa, it's not that I'm going to ever lead this horse off my ticket. I just wasn't sold. I thought maybe that the track helped him out last time out. So we'll see how, he runs this afternoon. Got him on my ticket. I got to go back and revisit that one. I did not use that one.
No, I think he's a little bit of a sneaky horse for Henry Collazo down on the rail. That's a good idea. Now, the 5th race is an interesting, likely 4-horse affair, and I only used 2 here. I debated whether to use also Lamplighter Jack, who's on the rail, as well as the 2 Palladio, but I opted to use the same 2 horses I have in the early sequence of the early pick 5. Again, I prefer the 6 Carson City Kid, and there's just something about the 4 Casalsa, who's just been nowhere at his 2 races for Mike Maker, yet I'm really encouraged that they're not putting him back in a claiming race yet. I find that to be maybe the biggest vote of confidence with that gelding, who's run okay on the dirt in the past. You've got the aforementioned crate again. Ronnie said he was toying with the idea of singling him in the 7th. I opted to pull the trigger. I used Terry Pompey's horse alongside the 2R Uncle Eric in the 9th. And the 8th race obviously gave me fits. I find, Ronnie, for a Florida-bred optional claimer, it's just a really competitive 8th race today where you've got horses just coming out of so many different directions. You know, it's not a carbon copy. A lot of times, like with the New York breds, you'll get kind of the same field every 3.5 to 4 weeks. Not the case with that 8th race for the Florida breds there. You know what I mean? And I'm 4 deep. I really struggle with the 8th. I think it's a fascinating puzzle.
Yeah, and I looked up, I didn't use any of the stat. You did use one stat with Carlos David, but the rest of the stats in this race, like our Mercedes boy with Georgina Baxter, not good turning back in distance. Didn't do it very often. So
Right.
that sort of added to the intrigue of this race, as we'll say. So I'm glad you went 4 deep. I went 3 deep. I could have gone 5, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, now Carson City Kid, I'm hoping puts this 5th race to bed early on, and you obviously agree. You've got the early speed, and I think this is more or less a telegraph of Mark Cassie and his South Florida-based team. Just trying, what do they say, get the getting while the getting's good, because this horse is running for the 3rd time in 40 days, and we saw him in action here, 2.5 weeks ago. I think 6 might be pushing it with him, dude, and his speed combined with 5, where the wire is going to come up quicker, it's a good combination in my mind.
Yeah, he's wheeling back at 5 furlongs. He rallied along the inside. It was a pretty nice race to finish second here against this level of competition that was going 6 on the main track. Mark Cassie, you mentioned Hector Barrios returning, gelded son of Uncaptured. I thought he was the logical one, and you're right about the 5 furlongs. That's sort of what sold me, moved me in that direction to put him on top.
Lamplighter Jack down on the rail has history with the 2 Palladio. You have those horses 2nd and 3rd. What's in your mind, the edge? Because to me anyway, I mean, they were separated by just the next September 4th, and we'll bring you that race. You know, looking at this field today, in your mind, and they both ran well, where Lamplighter Jack was more of a vying 3-wide speed. There he is in those black blinkers and white cap. Palladio probably had the better trip. In fact, I think he did. He was the one tucked away behind a 3-way pace battle. He'll tip out 4 wide and get the money narrowly. Was it the tough trip that Lamplighter Jack pulled in this race, Ronnie, that maybe swayed you putting him 2nd over a horse that beat him last time out?
It was more about the distance. You were talking about the 5 furlongs. You know, I like the cut back with Lamplighter Jack today. He's a son of Fed Biz. He returns after you saw there a pair of solid sprints on the dirt. He followed that debut victory at the 25 level. Comes back. I just thought with this turning back the 5 furlongs was going to help him this afternoon. Maybe turn the tables on Palladio, who I have in 3rd, MSCL Jaramillo in this one. And it was just, I thought maybe at 5 furlongs this one would have just a touch more. But I used those 2. You chose to use the 4 over those 2. Not that you don't have the 1 on your ticket, but I like that race maybe a little bit more than you do.
I just find Casalsa a little bit interesting, and he's absolutely muddied up. And who knows? There's a chance he might run a 3-buyer again, and if he does, he'll be last in this field, and he'll likely return to claiming races. And it's something I've used with success in the past. This is not an outfit, Paradise Farms, that wastes time with bad claims. Sometimes, I mean, it's just inevitable. They claim a lot. You're going to make some good claims and maybe not so good claims. And I know this horse had been entered to run on the turf this afternoon, but I really find it encouraging this horse is not back down in the claiming company after 2 very distant losses. I'm going to try to wake him up for trainer Mike Maker, and he might be a good price. 6th race, we're out to 2 turns here, 2nd half of the card. And you had mentioned the number 6 Sexy Dream in this spot for Ralph Nix, and you got the 2nd out, the down in class, the short to long with the speed. I mean, really a favorite that, when you start to go through the angles, looks, to my eyes anyway, pretty buttoned up here on paper.
Yeah, drop it to the 25 level, as you mentioned, stretching out to the mile. First race, track the pace, finished that distant 4th. But this is what Ralph does. 2nd start, you know, he's looking to get this horse in a good spot. I think 25 at the 2-turn distance going to be good. Sammy Camacho named the rider, daughter of Jess's Dream. You know, facts only in 2nd, stretching out to the 8 furlongs after rallying to finish 4th behind that bias-aided Miss Italy in her local local debut. That was going 6 furlongs. Catherine Davey, Paco Lopez named to ride. Paco's going to get this horse interested early, and I just thought it was a pretty good performance. And it's a horse that Miss Italy just had it away. You went to the lead and won it.
No, I mean, you've got facts only the 3 and the 4 Samurai Fighter. They're coming out of the same race, and in, I think, some respects, they might be a bit of a package deal. Certainly talking about this race, I'm glad you brought up Miss Italy wiring, and going back to that opening 2-day weekend we had on Saturday and Sunday, the 3rd and 4th of October, there were 9 of 19 dirt races, one wire to wire, and I'll tell you, yesterday, Three of the 9 winners yesterday, Ronnie, between Rags for Britches, January 1, and D. Silo, all 3 of those horses came back off bias compromised trips and I mean, won by daylight yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier today. If you followed my stuff and analysis in TV over the years, I'm not a big proponent of, bias on racetracks. But you had to see that over the first couple of days here, and it's coming to fruition. They're all running well.
Yeah, so they're 2 horses, absolutely, who were trip compromised last time out. We'll see how they do against, again, from where Ronnie and I stand, a pretty legit favorite for Ralph. Legit favorite and then some. You're looking at a cast of 5 in this off the turf Friday 7th on the dirt at 7, and we'll get right back to Create again. Just showing you a horse who's got the speed, the big Barboza numbers off the claim, and a horse, although he lost his last, really ran well in defeat, losing to probably a better dirt horse than what he's facing in this compact cast of 5 later today in the form of Geonosis. This horse is going to be a very short price, Ronnie, and again, looks very good on paper.
Yeah, as we were saying, this race reverts to 7 furlongs on the main track today. So cutting back in distance, you can see just gets beat at the wire, just gets nosed out here. So it was a real good performance. I wouldn't want to call that one if I was Pete. So a good performance, and you mentioned
he probably did, by the way.
Victor Barboza Jr. 51% first off the claim. It's just, I don't know. I've never seen that number before. So, and he keeps there. It's not that it changed, and he doesn't claim a lot of horses. So it's been a steady number. 2 for, as I mentioned, try and make it 2 in a row after returning from the layoff to defeat those 12-5 claimers, going to 1-turn mile, and it was on a good main track over at Gulfstream Park, and it was just basically a saver for me on my Rainbow 6 ticket.
Pretty eclectic cast in the 8th. I touched upon it with the late pick 5, that summation there, and I'm 4 deep here. This is a race that, although Ronnie and I landed on the same horse, and maybe there's a little bit of a wise guy vibe going on with the number 7 Legal Deal, but this is a very difficult race, and I guess my point is don't be fooled by Ronnie and I kind of, again, taking a stab with a horse who looks a little sneaky in this spot, but, we'll go through the pecking order, and let's start, Ronnie, with the 7 Legal Deal. I know you've got the turf to dirt stat for Carlos David. I also like the fact that this horse probably just simply isn't a turf horse, and he's back on his preferred surface.
Well, he had a 3-race win streak going in, and that ended when he finished that trouble starting 6 against the 50-starter optional claimers going 5 on the turf. Here's that stat we were talking about. Carlos David, turf to dirt and sprints over the past couple of years, 5 for 26, 19%, 38%. 175 is the return investment. More importantly, I just thought that this was the horse to beat with going back to the main track.
What price is he in there, actually? Take a look at the morning line for me. I'm curious.
He's 8 to 1.
Yeah, I think he's going to, I don't think he's going to be bet. I just hearing your voice, I think he's going to be in that like 5, 6, maybe, I don't know about 8, but 5, 6 Did you think he was the horse to beat here?
Yes, I did. And
wow,
as I looked up in other stats, as it was saying earlier, like our Mercedes won, and you can't, doubt the great stuff that Georgina Baxter did. This is just not one of their angles that they, turning back in distance, cutting back to 6 furlongs. So I said, hey, maybe I could go, even if I thought maybe I'd get 4 to 1 on a Legal Deal or something like that, because I think a lot of people are going to bet our Mercedes won in this spot just because of the connections.
Yeah, our Mercedes boy back in distance. No, it's all good, absolutely. Mercedes won. Florida Derby winner, right? Going back?
Yeah, I guess. Anything with a Mercedes in it except my car, I like.
You don't like the Benz?
No.
No?
No.
You should have got the you blew it, dude. You should have got the
You
Tesla.
had to ruin my afternoon.
I'm
didn't you?
sorry, dude, but no, I'm with you on our Mercedes boy. He got the mile on the dirt 3 back. I still think at the end of the day, he's probably better going 6 to 7, where Miles pushing it. I've got him third. We've also got some interest in the 8 Sandy's Blaze, who maybe there's not a lot to say on paper other than a horse who is well posted here, has that good tactical speed, and is pretty sharp right now for Antonio.
What do you do with a horse like the 10 company store in here for Saffie Joseph Jr.? He comes off the long layup. He's good with this type of layup. That was a good race. Now, it was way back in January, so he comes back. But how many times has Saffie beat me with this exact horse? So I added this horse in third just for that reason.
Yeah, he had a little bit of like hang bridesmaid in him when he was running consistently for Saffie, and Saffie's been kind of quiet here. 4 or 5 wins thus far with the first quarter of the meet in the books. We'll see how he does with the 10 company store off the layoff. Now, we'll wrap things up. Georgina's got our Mercedes boy in the 8th. She's right back with the 2 our Uncle Eric, who I thought would get the lead and would just wire the field for 12-5. I mean, after all, this is I know he's got a marquee pedigree, but didn't debut until June of his 4-year-old season and burned quite a bit of money. And basically everything I said about Paradise Farms Corp with Casalsa earlier, you can kind of just transplant it here with Rich Averill and company. I mean, Rich just doesn't run horses over their heads, and I thought he'd be a legit wire-to-wire threat. But I respect Terry's horse, who in hindsight, I guess, Shortlister didn't run all that bad first out, and this is the kind of barn that's not looking to just crank them up for one race, you know?
Yeah, and our Uncle Eric, just getting back to that horse just for 1 second, going to be the odds on choice in there. Looks like they were searching for something with this horse. Don't forget, this horse was originally scheduled for the turf, and Shortlister ran on the main track, finished that track to pace third. You got to use both, I think, and we both did. I thought that was the way to go in here with Shortlister and our Uncle Eric. And our Uncle Eric might go off as an odds-on choice in there, too. Once again, going back to your Rainbow Sixes, if you believe in a couple of horses that we talked about that you could single, you can go deep in those other races and not cost you that much money.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, we'll get the Rainbow underway in the 4th. Good luck in that department. We'll turn things over. In the meantime, the track announcer, Pete Aiello, for those Friday scratches and changes.